For today's video, we will be working with percentages of a number in story problems. There are three problems on here that the student should be able to solve relatively easy using one of the three strategies that we have been working on. There are two challenge problems on here that the students are allowed to use calculators, and we'll get to those. The first problem, number one, says in a department store, a $40 dress is marked save 25%. What is the sale price of the dress? Well, understanding that the original price is really 100% of that item. So the dress originally costs $40. We are saving, or we're going to be subtracting 25%. Over here, if I know 100% take away 25% is 75%, I'm only paying 75% of the original price because of our discount. Now, many students will go through and they'll actually solve 25% of 40, and then they're going to have to do the subtraction. Otherwise, you could always just take 75% of 40. Either way, you're going to get the same answer, but knowing which one means which. So 75% is what you're paying, 25% is really what you're saving. So going through this, there were the three strategies we had been working with. The first strategy that we had talked about was using these anchors, or these landmarks, of 10%. 10% is something you should be able to find in your head. 10% of 40 is simply 4. So we just move that decimal and know that 10% is 4. Now I have to somehow create 25%, which 25% is 10% plus 10% plus 5%. And we get 5% is half of a 10%, so we get 2. 25% is simply 10. So what that tells me is my discount I'm saving is $10. So actual price that I would pay, what is the sale price, is $30. Now, this is the one strategy that students were taught. The other strategy that many students are using is understanding that 25% is simply the decimal, 25 hundredths, and you can multiply 25 hundredths times 40, and if I do this, I get 1,000, but then I have to put my decimal back 2 place values, so you get 1, 2 place values, and we get an answer of $10. So if students like multiplying decimals, they can certainly do that. Percentages are a little easier in your head if they're simple, like 25%. The other way is if they can see the fraction. So 25% as a fraction is simply 1/4. So 1/4 of 40 means 1/4 of 40. You're multiplying the fractions, or you see you're taking a fourth of something, which 40 divided by 4 is 10. In this case, 1/4 of 40 probably was your easiest thing to do if you just knew that 25% is a fourth. So either way, what we end up getting is our sale that we're saving is $10. So our sale price, the price that we're paying, is $30. Number two, you were reading on your Kindle and it says you have read 40% of your entire book, or of your book. If the book has 520 pages, what page are you on? Well, as the students go through our next couple units, we're going to be talking about proportions, and I'm just going to put this out there as 40% is really 40 over 100. And this question that it's really asking is, what percent of your book are you on, or what page of the book are you on? Well, 40 hundredths is equal to what out of 520? And really, we don't know a strategy yet on how to make this a proportion. So what I'm trying to figure out is, what page am I on if I've read 40%? Well, the one way that I would probably attack this one is understanding what 10% would be. Well, 10% of 520, you find, is 52. Well, for 40%, we have 4 10% to make 40. So I would take 52 4 times. And now if I multiply 52 times 4, 50 times 4 is 200. 4 times 2 is 8. And we know that 40% is 208. So right now, there's my answer. What page am I on? I'm on page 208. The other strategy students are using, if you didn't understand that is 2/5, so you could take 2/5 of 520, or changing 40% into the decimal, 0.40, don't need that 0, so it could be 4/10 times 520, and if you multiply the decimal out, you're going to get 2080. And because there's one decimal place, I'm going to have to move that back, and you're still going to get 208. So 208 is the number of, or that's what page you are on. Number 3 is a challenge problem. So number 3, it says at Best Buy you have a 60-inch TV that sells for $1,250. That's 100%. It is on sale for 15% off. And you have to pay sales tax of 6.5%. What is the final cost of the TV? Well, if I just write this out, we have our original price minus what we're going to save because of the sale, plus, in the end, we're going to have to pay Uncle Sam, we're going to have to pay tax. So this is what we need to calculate. Our original price minus our sale for 15% off, well, let's find 15% of 1,250. And on this one, I would assume that students would use a calculator. They're going to actually learn how to do all of this using a calculator coming up. I'm going to type this in as 1,250 multiplied by this as the decimal, 0.15. Word of in math mostly means multiply, a part of this, and I'm going to have to multiply by 15 hundredths. I get 187.5. Well, if we're talking math, this is, and money, this is $187.50. So my original price, I'm saving $187.50. So I would have to figure out this right now. 1,250 minus $187.50. Write this out. 0 took away 0, 0. This becomes 49. You get $1,062.50. That is after we save 15%. However, there's sales tax, and we're going to take sales tax from this price. So now I take my $1,062.50, and I have to multiply $1,062.50 times my sales tax. Well, this as a decimal, 6%, 6.5% is 0, and tenths, hundredths is 6. 5 is in the thousandths, and I need a 0 in my tenths. So I type this in my calculator as 0.065, and I then equal, obviously typed in something wrong, retry that. We get $69.06. So I'm just going to end up going to my hundredths place, because that's my penny, and rounding that. So $69.06 is tax. Here we are going to have to add our tax, $69.06, and we end up with this, $69.06 plus $1,062.50 for a grand total of the TV. The cost of the TV is $1,131.56. So again, this is a challenge problem. It takes a lot of work, especially if you use a calculator. You're going to have to understand how to turn these into decimals. Feel free to try it, follow along if you need to. Number 4 is more typical of what the test is going to look like. It says Oakview 6th graders are going on a field trip on the last day of school. Typically, 80% of our 420 students attend the field trip. How many students do not go on the field trip? Well, understanding that 100% is all of our students. Well, all the students is 420. 80% go. Well, we know that all the students don't go, so we would subtract to find 20% do not go. So I could either take our 80% of 420, which many students would do, and then have to subtract from 420, or simply find 20% of 420. 20% of 420 is going to give me the number of students that don't go. So 10% should be relatively easy. Move the decimal, you get 42. Double that for 20%, and you get 84. So right now, I already know the answer is 84 students do not go. If you were to find the 80% of 420, you'd take your 10%, 42, and now you just have to multiply that to make 80% by 8. So you multiply that by 8, so then you multiply 42 times 8, and you're going to get 336, because 8 times 40 is 320, 8 times 2 is 16, add those together, you get 336. But this gives me the answer for how many do attend. So I would have to then subtract 420, take away 336, you get 84 students. So either way you solve it, the answer to the question is 84 students do not go on the field trip. And then finally, number 5. Number 5 is quite the challenge. It's a multiple step problem. It says if you go out to eat with 3 friends and your meal was $72.50, there's a 7.25% sales tax, and you tip the waiter 15%. How much is your group's total bill? If you divide the bill evenly, how much should each person pay? So the first thing I would do is I'd try to make sense of this using some words. So I know that we're going to have to go, we get a meal, we have to pay the sales tax, plus we have to pay a tip, and in the end, whatever this total is, we are going to be splitting amongst all of us, which there's 3 friends and myself, making 4 people. This is what I'm trying to find. How much each person would pay. Well, the meal's given to us. The meal is right here, $72.50. So I'm going to just write that. Right now I know $72.50 is my meal. I'm going to calculate tax. Well, tax on the meal, $72.50, I am going to figure out 7.25% as a decimal is 0.0725. And I would have to multiply then this times $72.50. And again, use a calculator. This is a lot of work. This would be one of those challenge problems that you would be lost if you're trying to do this in your head or you're trying to write this all down. So 0.0725 times $72.50. And we get this big number, 5.25625. Well, if we're talking money, we end up with a sales tax of $5, and we're just going to round that to 26 cents. So I rounded to the nearest hundredth just to make that money. So $5.26 is my tax. Now I have to leave a tip. So the tip is going to be on your bill. You don't usually tip with sales tax. So if we go here, we're just going to tip on the bill, $72.50. So if I know it's $72.50, 15%. Well, 15%, I could either calculate with 10% and 5% or just multiply my decimal. 1,500th times $72.50. And if at this point you're super lost with what we're doing, don't worry about it. This is much higher level thinking than what your test is going to be. You're going to learn how to do all of this with a calculator as we go through and start working on this more. But if we get this, our tip is going to end up being $10. And, well, we're going to round this to actually make sense for money. It's going to be $10.88. Well, now I know my meal, my tax, my tip. I have to calculate what my total bill is going to be. So here's $10.88. I'm going to just add these up using the calculator. $72.50, $5.26, $10.88. We get a grand total of $88.64. This is your bill. That's what everybody is going to have to somehow come up with. And here, we're still going to have to divide this by the 4 people to figure out what each person would pay. So I'm going to take this, divide this by 4, and we get $22.16 is each person's portion. So how much should each person pay? $22.16. Again, number 3 and number 5 were a lot of work. You're going to see a lot more problems on your test, like 1, 2, and 4. If you have questions or need extra help, please find me tomorrow before your test. We can also talk on Friday. If you wanted to come in before or after school, we can kind of go through a couple more extra problems. Please let me know, and I hope that you found this helpful.